Hello, and welcome back to Through the Trapdoor. I'm Emily.
And I'm Katie.
And this is our podcast where we read you Harry Potter fanfiction.
And it's been a year!
Woo!
And also, happy September 1st. Welcome back to Hogwarts!
Yay! I wish I was going to Hogwarts.
We all do. But remember, anybody born in the 90s,
Yeah, we just will
Voldemort
never know.
wiped out the Muggle-born records at the Ministry.
Yeah,
So we could be magic.
we could
but
be.
At this point, we'd all have obscurials, so... Also, we would have gone to Ivamori.
It's not as fun.
It's not.
But we would know nonverbal spells.
We would, since witches were persecuted much more heavily in the United States than in most other countries.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like we had witch trials here or anything.
I mean, right here in good old Salem, Massachusetts, right on down the way from us. Oh, God, the history of America is fun, especially New England.
Yep. Do you have any fun announcements from the,
From yesterday
from
to
yesterday to now?
No.
Okay.
Not much more has happened.
All right.
So.
Well, then let's read.
Let's read.
My story is called September 1st.
Oh, so perfect.
James was so excited about this day. Finally, he was going to Hogwarts.
Is this Next Generation James, or is this...
No, this is Harry's father, James.
So we're marauders, okay.
After spending years dreaming about the castle, listening to tales and myths about it, he was finally going to see it for himself. Not just that, he was going to spend the next 7 years, holidays excluded, there. How could someone not be excited about that?
Fair.
He was also kind of sad, though. He thought about going to this huge castle and leaving his mom and dad home. It was the first time he would ever spend a night away from his parents. Not only a night, months and months.
You are 11. You've never been to a sleepover? You had to have other wizard friends.
Probably, but for the story, he did not.
Wait, did the Weasleys have friends until they got to high school? Or Hogwarts? I don't know if they did. Except for each other. Oh.
Wizard communities are weird.
Well, yeah, because they don't do any kind of schooling at all.
Not only a night, months and months. He was, even if he wouldn't admit it, frightened.
Fair.
It was going to be the first time he was surrounded by so many kids his age. He was not used to that. He wondered who were going to be his roommates. He wondered if he was going to get a friend. It wasn't easy for him. Well, he was very extroverted. Maybe too much, but he never really had a chance to make a real good friend. But what if he didn't find anyone he liked? What if he was going to be the best in his class and all the others were dumb? Not to talk about his house. What was it going to be? He hoped for Gryffindor, of course, like his father. But what if it was going to be sorted somewhere else? He couldn't wait. He couldn't wait anymore. That day, he woke up really early. His luggage was already waiting for him in the entrance. He stormed into his parents' room, jumped on the bed. Mom, we need to go.
Fair. Also how I would feel.
For Euphemia, that wasn't the best of awakenings. But hearing her son so happy and excited filled her heart and made her forget everything else. Fleamont wasn't any different. They both got up, mostly to stop James from jumping on them, and they all got ready for the travel ahead. James didn't stop even for a second to ask questions about everything. He asked about the enchanted ceiling. He asked about how great the Great Hall was. He asked about Quidditch. He wished he could play already. Maybe he was going to be so good that they'd allow him to play in his first year. do you think was the first student that ruined the first years can't play Quidditch rule? Because I think it was James.
Totally James!
Yeah.
James totally messed something up. But then again, he was on the team.
But
all
that
of his
doesn't mean he
years.
didn't mess it up before that, though.
That's true. But I would also think it was like, I think it was a first year, like, in flying class who, like, really fucked some shit up.
Probably.
Because, like, Neville broke his arm.
Yes.
And that was, like, could have gone way worse.
Yes.
So, like, I can only imagine it was, like, some first year student who, like, kicked off, couldn't get back down, and, like, got, like, accidentally flew themselves right into, like, the Forbidden Forest.
Yep.
And then, like, rescue mission times 57 had to go find them.
Times 57.
It's just the first number that came to mind.
He asked about all the subjects, about the houses. He asked about how he would relate to the other kids, the Slytherins, the powerful families that would send their pupils to Hogwarts when the families arrived at King's Cross. His parents were exhausted.
James sounds exhausting.
Yes, he does. But James's enthusiasm was renewed. When he was about to go through the barrier between the platforms 9 and 10, he was shaking. Everything was so huge and shiny. The barrier melted away when he passed through, like going through jelly. He giggled, euphoric. His head was spinning, his glasses askew. His parents didn't know how he could see anything. His jaw dropped in front of the red locomotive. It was impressive, to say the least. The black smoke that was already spiraled behind it made the contrast even starker. Finally, James stopped talking. His eyes were sparkling, and he looked from his parents to the train and back multiple times before talking again. "It's all better than you said!" he exclaimed, and subconsciously stepped closer.
Jelly?
I could feel you holding that in.
Jelly?
Yeah, that wouldn't seem pleasant.
Jelly! Ew!
It's an awful description.
I wouldn't want to walk through jelly.
No.
Oh! No! No, it makes me want to go back and look how Harry described it.
Yeah, I don't remember how he described it.
Oh my god.
I don't think he really described it as anything.
I thought he just like felt like he was just like walking through nothing.
Yeah. I don't say I don't think that it ever stuck out as anything like.
No, I always felt like that was like more like going through a hologram where it was like felt like you thought it was going to feel like weird, but in reality you just were walking through like nothingness.
Yeah, or might feel like a little like misty or something.
Right.
Yeah. Not jelly.
Oy.
In spite of being up so early, the Potters arrived just in time. Did they walk to the station? You can literally apparate anywhere.
But can you apparate a child? Can you side-along apparition a child?
Dumbledore does it to Harry.
When he's 16!
I don't see why it would make a difference.
Fair. But then why wouldn't the Weasleys do it?
Because they have 20 bajillion children.
But think of how much quicker it would be if Molly apparated along with one or two of them, and then Arthur just continually apparated back and forth, bringing one child at a time. It would take 5 minutes at most.
Who knows?
Because Molly can handle her children.
Yes. That's not a thing that I'm ever worried about.
No, Molly would need to be the one who apparated there first and then watched over the children. Because Arthur would just be like, have fun. As Molly apparated with the children. Where are the children? I don't know.
He's not quite that bad, but yes.
Well, he's not that bad, but he'd be like, go have fun with your friends. Go ahead through the barrier.
Could you imagine if Harry had red hair like Lily? And that first time that Arthur met him.
Oh my god. He'd be like,
Molly, where did that one come from? That was not mine.
he's not one of ours. What? When did we have an 8th child? Why is he the same age as our son, Ron?
Did we have twins and you not tell me?
How have I never noticed this child?
Have I missed something for 12 years?
Or like when Harry first met Draco and Madame Malkin's, he'd be like, ugh, another Weasley, and Harry'd be like, what the fuck? No.
Yeah, he'd be like, a what?
A who?
No.
No. My name is Harry Potter. And then Draco would have been like, what?
Yep. All right,
Oh, that would have
continue.
been great.
They carried James's chest to the closest door, and the dreaded moment their son would get on the train and leave. James dreaded that moment too. Behind all the excitement, and now in front of the train where the departure was so close, he was scared. His mother took him into a big, strong hug. "I'm squeezing out the fear, honey," she whispered in his ear.
That's cute.
And made James smile. His father didn't say anything when he hugged him, just as strong as his mother, but words weren't needed. James knew his feelings. "Come on, James. It's time to go." The snuffle was like perfectly timed.
I was waiting for my exact right moment.
He murmured as if saying it low enough wouldn't make it real. But people were starting to form a line behind them, saying goodbye to parents but waiting to get on board. James nodded, his eyes shiny for something that wasn't entirely excitement but was close to tears. Not that he would say. He mounted the stairs, took a deep breath. He turned to see his parents one last time, but the crowd already hid them. He walked through the narrow corridor of the train, smelling the smell of teenagers, old trains, and different types of food. He checked every compartment, but they were all full, so he kept walking for a while, until he was afraid he wouldn't find a place, and he would have to stand all the time till dinner. Finally, he found an empty one, a completely empty one. He asked himself if something bad happened in there that made all the other students take their distance. But the smell was fine, and there wasn't anything weird inside, so he sat.
You just happened to find the empty compartment because everybody else is already with their friends.
Do you ever think that, this is a magical train? So what if the magical train kind of knows
that people are terrified and all of a sudden it grows another compartment?
Yeah, or like it knows that first years need friends and it like magically kind of pushes
them together?
Yes. Yeah, that's my thought.
That is canon.
Plus, how could there be never empty compartments on a magical train?
Right.
Yeah. Like the train is doing magic
on purpose. I mean, that's also because my also thought, I'm going back now to Prisoner of Azkaban. Why the hell was Lupin on that train and not just at the school? Why did he take the train to Hogwarts? He did it because he missed his goddamn friends.
Yep. Because
they were either in prison or dead.
Yep.
And he was like, I'm fucking all alone, and I'm a werewolf, and nobody wants to be my friend, so I'm gonna go sit on the train in the same compartment that all but my friends used to be in, and just be sad.
Yep. And the train knew that, so it was like, have friends, yay!
Bam! Here's the son of your dead best friend.
Mm-hmm. And his best friends who will now be your best friends.
Also, here's the son of your best friend who would have called you Uncle Remus your entire life if Voldemort didn't kill him.
Yep.
But also, Remus, why the flippity-doo-dah-day did you not go and check on Harry in his muggle hellscape?
Flippity-doo-dah-day. But yes, that is a very valid point. I never...
You're a goddamn wizard!
Yeah.
Send him a letter! show up and knock. Are you treating my fucking nephew well?
Like, your mother was a muggle. You know how the muggle world exists. Like, I'm pretty sure it even said that he worked as a teacher or, like, whatever in muggle schools for a while.
Yes, I believe it did.
Yeah.
Or that's us both reading too much fan fiction.
Also could be that.
But still. Why did you never show up? Why did you never knock on that door? Why did you never send Harry a goddamn birthday present?
Yeah, just like a letter once in a while.
A card on Christmas?
Like, you could send it through the muggle mail.
Shit, you knew where he was. Because guess what? You could have just moved into the goddamn neighborhood like Arabella Fig and been the crazy person who babysat Harry when once or twice a year when they were like, no, we don't want to deal with you.
Yeah. Because he totally could have passed as the crazy person on the street.
Right!
Instead of Arabella Fig.
Who's also the crazy person on the street.
Yeah. With her 47 cats.
But then again, then there would have been 2 magical people in that neighborhood who could have watched after Harry.
Yes. Plus, Lupin was actually magic and...
Not a squib.
Yes.
Sorry, Miss Arabella Fig. You're a delight who hits people with purses full of cat food and can apparently talk to cats, or you just have a lot of measles.
He sat for about 2 seconds, then he changed his seat. Another 2 seconds passed, and he changed again and again and again till he found himself in the first seat he sat.
Oh, James.
He stood again and walked to the door. He put his head out in the corridor and checked left and right. There were students everywhere, and he felt his excitement come back in spikes. Were they going to be his housemates? Was that blonde guy going to be his roommate? A taller kid than him, black hair, piercing gray eyes that looked ahead and didn't take into consideration the students he met, was heading James's way. He looked elegant, but James understood he wasn't trying. He also understood that this kid was a member of one of those pure blood families. He played a game with himself and tried to guess what family this guy belonged to. Goyle? Nah, he did not look like a Goyle. Lestrange? Not even close. James knew some Lestranges, and this kid didn't look like them.
You mean not crazy with dead eyes?
Yes, not that. Longbottom? Malfoy, maybe? Maybe he had the elegance and the air of superiority. Most Malfoys he knew were blonde, but that didn't mean their hair couldn't be any other color. Pruitt, maybe, but he wasn't sure.
Pruitts are redheads.
Yeah. The kid was just a few meters away when another name stuck in James's mind. Black. The kid was a Black.
Obviously, it's serious.
Of course he was. How couldn't he? It was all crystal clear now. And James didn't like him. He heard his parents talking about the Blacks. They were one of those families that believed in the purity of their blood more than they believed in the bonds between their members. This guy didn't even look at the other students. He was engulfing them like an avalanche without even noticing. When he arrived at James's compartment, their eyes met. But it wasn't like one of those tales his mother used to read him. There wasn't any electric shock, any deep insight from one another's lives. There was nothing. The only thing that changed was the guy stopped in front of him, waited. A second, then raised an eyebrow. "Would you move?" he asked. His tone was neutral, not polite, not rude. Oh, I read it rude.
You did, but it's fine, because I was going to be like, rude, serious? But I feel like serious would have been like, could you move?
Yeah. James now understood that he was looking for a seat and wanted to sit with him. He moved. He was too good-mannered to refuse. The boy sat in one of James's places. But weren't they all? James still stood, still looked outside, and sometimes glanced at the kid. To his surprise, he wasn't sitting straight as he expected from a pure-blood aristocrat. The way his mother demanded from him when they had guests or were someone else's guests.
You're also on a train full of children, James. You don't have to be like,
Proper.
I'm at a dinner party. I must sit like an adult.
Yes. He saw the kid's shoulders relax. He closed his eyes and sighed of relief. James was becoming curious. He turned and went to sit in the first seat he tried, right in front of the other. He couldn't stay still, though, his feet tapping not so gently on the floor. He felt the impulse to get up and walk again. The black kid still had his eyes closed. Are you a first year? James was startled by the question. He didn't plan on asking. Yes, the other murmured, not opening his eyes. It was clear he didn't want to engage in conversation. But James wasn't good at reading people, and even if he was, he didn't care that much.
Yeah, sounds like James.
Me too, he said with a big smile, the thrill alive again. What house do you want to go in? He asked, but he knew the answer. All blacks went to Slytherin. It was well known. Why are you asking? The suspicious gray eyes were now fixed on him. The tone was almost aggressive. James shrugged. He was right, this guy was a jerk. They stayed silent for a while. A very long time, if you ask James. And looking at the boring landscape outside the window didn't help. James was too restless to stay still, and he felt some kind of weird tension in sitting in front of this guy who didn't seem to care about the most exciting day of their lives.
James sounds a lot like me. Like, I'd be like, I gotta move.
Yeah.
Gotta walk around. I want to go talk to people that I don't know and
Yep.
make people uncomfortable and make myself uncomfortable, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
After what seemed to be ages, James resigned to stay sitting and just swing his legs with the occasional sigh of boredom. Black ignored him. Lily, a small voice at the door, mumbled. Or at least James thought. He said that a boy stood at the door. His black hair was oily and long, with strands in front of his eyes. His nose was large and hooked. James was so bored at this point that he seized the moment and laughed meanly at him.
Rude, James. He's clearly looking for his friend.
Yeah, don't be rude. Well, if you washed your hair from time to time, it wouldn't be in front of your eyes and obscure your vision.
James!
James is such a bully.
What a dick!
And if your nose wasn't so big, that would be even better, the black kid added. I can help you with that, he exclaimed, flashing his wand and laughing a bark-like laugh. Before the two kids could react, the boy at the door murmured something and pointed his wand at them. There was a loud pop, but nothing happened. Black, who already had his wand in his hand, reacted first, whispered a spell, and there was another loud pop. The kid seemed fine, but stormed away. James could swear there were tears in his eyes, but he wasn't totally sure. The boys looked at each other with a smirk on their faces and started laughing uncontrollably. Maybe this kid wasn't so bad after all. I'm James, he said, his breath still short. Serious, the other smiled. James nodded, but he didn't know what else to say. They shared a moment, but they also spent a long time in silence before that. Was this kid going to have a conversation with him, or was he too full of himself to make conversation with others? Everything but Slytherin, Black, or Sirius surprised him after a while. Pardon? James, wide-eyed, stared at him like he was an alien. You asked what house I would like to be in. Everything but Slytherin is my answer. James took a while before answering. If he was right, this boy was a black, and blacks were all sorted into Slytherin. It was tradition. It was an honor thing to them. But Sirius here didn't want to be there at all. Well, my mother said that if you ask, the sorting hat listens to you, so maybe if you ask to be sorted into another house, it will listen. Maybe. Sirius copied the shrug movement. After that, they stayed in silence until the food trolley arrived at their compartment. James jumped out of his seat. I'll get something of everything, he shouted, and made Sirius laugh. You're going to get cavities in no time. What? My mom said I could buy sweets, he pouted, and Sirius laughed again. Nevertheless, James had almost emptied the trolley and shared everything he got with Sirius. Mother never lets me eat sweets, he said, his mouth full of chocolate frog. He tried to eat 3 at a time.
Okay, well that is like very much like father, like son.
Yep. Totally. That's awful. I can eat them at every special occasion, James smiled. Well, she's not here now, Sirius laughed and grabbed a cauldron cake. They started talking about everything after that. Sirius was excited after all. Maybe he was more excited to be away from his family than to be at Hogwarts. But James could tell that played a large role in his feelings anyway. When the train finally stopped and they were about to get off, James was so hyperactive once again, and his behavior affected Sirius too, that now was grinning widely at the giant who was calling for first-year students. They risked a fall into the lake when they saw the castle for the first time. "It's huge," James whispered. Oh, I shouted.
That's fine. He probably whisper shouted, "It's huge!"
Probably. Sirius was right at his side, both of them stuck out of the boat's mouths agape. Inside the castle was even more surprising to them. The entrance hall was incredible. It was so big that James's neck hurt to look up. The professor who greeted them was a Scottish woman in her late 30s who introduced herself as Minerva McGonagall, Transfiguration Professor, head of Gryffindor House. I almost said head of Hogwarts House.
I mean, she is. Let's be honest. She is head of Hogwarts.
Yes. She explained the sorting ceremony to surprise of most Muggleborns and explained what house they were going to be sorted into represented. She let them in a small room and went to prepare the ceremony. When the ghosts appeared, most of the students were startled, but not James and Sirius. They answered the ghost questions and made jokes at their expense. They also managed to cross nearly headless Nick. Not surprised.
Not at all.
When Professor McGonagall appeared again, they were led into the Great Hall, and James found the name perfectly fitting. It was great. It was beautiful. It was warm, huge, and magical.
And it is a hall.
It's also a hall. James wanted to scream.
I probably would have.
After the hat song, Professor McGonagall started to call first years in alphabetical order, which meant that James was going to be close to last. But if he was right about Sirius, his new friend was going to be close to first.
Yep.
Black. Sirius. Sirius moved with his subconscious elegance, his shoulders straight, his head high. Slytherin cheered, waiting for the moment another Black joined their table. The sorting hat took a while. James could see Sirius tense under it. Maybe he was trying to convince it that he wouldn't fit for Slytherin. "Gryffindor!" the hat shouted at the end. And for a moment, the great hall fell silent. "You go, Sirius!" James broke the tension, and the Gryffindors started to cheer, while the Slytherins booed, still in disbelief. Sirius turned toward James with his thumb up and a wide grin on his face. The ceremony went on. Every table cheered for a new student, but there weren't any more surprises as Sirius. Finally, when it was James' turn, he was grateful. He couldn't wait any more. He walked to the stool, trying to imitate Sirius's stride. The hat was on his messy hair for just a few seconds before shouting, "Gryffindor!" And James had never been happier. The table started to chant his name. He was euphoric. He sat close to Sirius and enjoyed the rest of the ceremony before enjoying the banquet. When it was time to follow the prefects to Gryffindor Tower, James almost got lost because he was too enthralled by everything to stay in line and follow the older students. He was just able to pay attention when they arrived in front of the fat lady's painting, and the prefects told them the password. They entered the common room, and he felt at home right away. There were tables, chairs, couches, armchairs in front of the fireplace. There were shelves of books and games and 2 staircases that the prefects immediately indicated as leading to the dorms. James went upstairs with Sirius, and they found out they were going to share a room. James didn't tell him how grateful he was. It was the first time he'd slept away from home, And having a friend, or at least someone he knew even briefly, with him made him feel calmer and safer. There were two other kids in the room with them. One was short with sandy blonde hair, and if James didn't know he was a first year, he would have thought he was too young to be at Hogwarts. Well, the other kid seemed shy with brown hair and brown eyes, who, however, smiled warmly at them while he carefully folded his clothes and changed into his PJs. They introduced themselves as Peter Pettigrew and Remus Lupin, respectively. Even though the 4 boys were all too tired, they spent most of the night talking, telling each other about their families, their expectations, and sharing the few sweets James had saved from the train journey. All in all, James was happy, and his fears vanished when he found that these 3 boys were nice, and having friends probably wasn't going to be that difficult after all.
Oh, that's a sweet story. Sweet Marauder's story.
Very cute.
It is. It just makes me angry because Peter Pettigrew's a dick.
Yes. We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for being with us for a whole year.
Yeah, this has been a great journey.
Yeah, it really has. It's really fun to hang out with my friend every week.
Yeah, I do enjoy that. Even if you just come over and hang out, that would be fine too. But reading fan fiction's fun.
Exactly. It's fun to have something that we do anyways together.
Yep.
Well, thanks guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on our journey through the trap door.
Please leave us a review on Facebook or iTunes. It would literally mean the world to us.
It really would.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Through the Trapdoor 16 or on Twitter at The Trapdoor.
And please send us an email at throughthetrapdoor16@gmail.com with any story suggestions. And as always, join us again next Saturday as we travel through the trapdoor.